Okay, everyone. Councillor Longo, we're going back on. Okay, we're back in open session. Business arising from closed session. Okay, that the confidential verbal update dated October 1st, 2024 respecting bylaw review 2371 Merrittville Highway be received. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Councillor Sentence and Councillor Decker. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Confidential information dated October 1st, 2024 respecting encroachment Tulip Tree Drive be received. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor Hanley and Councillor Sentence. All those in favor? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Now we're going to put the report on the floor.
Delegation first.
A delegation for PWCS for 2024 respecting encroachments Tulip Tree Drive, and I'll call on Chris Garofalo, City of Thorold resident, for his delegation respecting memorandum PWCSC for 2024 encroachments Tulip Tree Drive. Chris, you're up, and you have up to 10 minutes for your presentation, Chris. Welcome to City Council.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the opportunity to speak here. Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Garofalo, and I reside at 79 Tulip Tree Road. Tonight, I am here to state the encroachment agreement on Tulip Tree Road must be consistent to every resident. It has been communicated to me by multiple City of Thorold staff that this encroachment on Tulip Tree is a new process. However, this is in fact incorrect. On November 1st of 2022, the first mention of an encroachment agreement via email was sent to me. 9 months later, on August 22nd of 2023, the encroachment agreement was sent via mail asking for the $100 payment, signature of agreement, and proof of certificate of general liability insurance, both from Chris Vachica, who worked in the engineering department. Since August of 2023, I have not heard from the city regarding this issue until I applied for a pool installation this year. So I have a picture right here. This picture here is a Google Earth picture, obviously. It was taken Q2 of 2023. A particular resident on Tulip Tree Road shows no in-ground pool in their backyard in this picture right here. Currently, this exact resident now has an in-ground pool in their backyard, as shown in my 2024 picture right here. Has this person been subjected to the same rigorous regulations and permits that I've been asked to provide the city? Encroachment agreement should be consistent with every resident, I say again. My questions are as following. How many completed MTO permits have been provided to the city from residents on Tulip Tree Road? How many encroachment agreements have been signed and paid for with the city? And out of those encroachment agreements, how many residents have provided $2 million liability insurance and have added the City of Thorold on their home insurance as a second insuree, as I have been asked to do myself? Once again, the encroachment agreement should be consistent with every resident. I am now at the final step of this lengthy encroachment agreement process. I'm trying to provide the proof of insurance certificate as per the City of Thorold's request that I submitted to my insurance just over a week ago. My insurance company has sent the $2 million liability insurance and adding City of Thorold as a second insuree on my policy request to their underwriters department, as they have never experienced this request before. I'm quickly losing hope that this can be even accomplished and granted by my insurance company, in which I am patiently awaiting an answer from. I have an email thread proof from a current resident of Tulip Tree Road trying to achieve their liability certificate with their insurance company named TD Malash Monix on September 6th, 2023. It was denied by TD Malash Monix on September 11th of 2023. This is a statement from their insurance company right here, and I quote, "We cannot provide public liability coverage to the insured to save harmless to the public, such as city, its agent, employees, and invitees against all loss, cost, damages, charges, and expenses whatsoever which may be occurred." It was then suggested by a Thorold city staff member in this exact email thread, that this resident change their insurance company and go to Allstate. That states, "In the meantime," and I quote, sorry, "In the meantime, may I suggest reaching out to Allstate Insurance, as I have received an updated policy pertaining to the encroachment agreement." Since then, that resident has continued to use city land without signing an encroachment agreement, without paying the $100 fee, and without providing general insurance liability, which carries $2 million of liability and has had no follow-up or contact by the city whatsoever. In conclusion, this encroachment agreement needs to be consistent to every Tulip Tree resident. I'm sorry, my mouth's very dry right now. At the end of the day, all I'm trying to do is provide a fun, safe place for my two kids to play and enjoy their own backyard. I've been trying to organize this construction of my pool in late Q3 and early Q4 of 2024, so my kids can take full advantage of the pool in the spring of 2025. This process should have been seamless, considering all the fellow Tulip Tree predecessors who have encroached on the city land, yet I feel like a guinea pig, having all these processes being experimented and trialed on my behalf and my expense, literally. I fully support, and I'm not sure what happened behind city council closed chambers, so this was like a footnote, I'm throw it in there anyway. I fully support Councillor Hanley's motion for the city of Thorold to give the land on the encroachment agreement on Tulip Tree Road to the residents and give back a $100 fee to those who have paid it. Furthermore, this is another footnote, I'd like an answer. Can I pose a question to the councillors or to?
No, Counselor will ask you questions.
I like it. Anyways, I'm going to say my footnote. Why did the councillors have to vote on my behalf, being allowed to enter in an encroachment agreement with the city of Thorold, especially after I have signed the legally binding encroachment agreement and paid the $100 fee? Is this not something that the Thorold staff engineers can take care of and not take up the taxpayers' time in the city council minutes? Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, and now I'm gonna open the floor to questions for Chris, so. Is there questions from Counselor? Go ahead, Counselor Hanley.
Well, can I ask him what it was that he would like to ask?
You can ask that.
I can ask that. What question was it that you would like to ask that you mentioned in your presentation? What would you like to know?
Thank you, Councillor Hanley. My question I would actually like to ask, I already paraphrased pretty much, is why do the councillors have to vote on an encroachment agreement on Tulip Tree Road when I've actually signed the encroachment agreement, paid my $100 fee, which was waived, but it's neither here nor there? Is this not something that the engineers can do on their own behalf instead of taking up the taxpayers' time and money at City Council? I believe.
That's the question. Counselor Hanley, you asked it, but we can deal with that when the report hits.
Okay, yeah.
Can I close that off? To me, sorry.
No, that's it. He asked you the question, you said, but we can deal with, Counselor Hanley can deal with that when the report hits the floor, okay?
Thank you.
Is there questions? Do you have any other questions, Counselor Hanley?
No, not this time.
Okay, Counselor D'Angelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Chris, for coming tonight, presenting and waiting. My question, you sort of answered it through your presentation, that you want to get this pool built Q3, Q4, have it finalized, and it'd be spring of next year. So when you're looking at, again, I've never built a pool, I'm not sure what you're building. What timeline are you looking at to do the construction? It'll help council as we facilitate an answer to this situation, but just timing-wise, what is it that you're looking at in terms of construction? Is 3 weeks, month, more? What can you provide anything?
Thank you, Councillor D'Angelo. I've been told 3 to 4 weeks on construction of the pool.
Okay. That helps me because I know we're trying to get to a resolve to this, and it might take a bit of time. So you're trying to get it in before the winter months occur. So you're looking at the end of October, mid-November of having the pool constructed, if your time frame goes well.
My original at the time was way before the end of October, but here I am.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're working with best case scenario from this point forward. Okay, thank you, Chris.
Correct. Thank you.
Appreciate your presentation.
Councillor Decker, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Chris, for coming to do your presentation. I guess I have a question about the encroachment, which would be the wall and where the property is. So you want to build your pool. Are you wanting to use that barrier as part of your fence, or do you have to build another fence when you put in your new pool? Have you been advised of that, or?
Thank you, Councillor Decker, sorry. I've been advised if I want to use, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I want to use the said sound barrier fence as my fence barrier for my pool, I'd have to pay the $100 fee, which is encroaching on them, my shed anyway, and my pool is on my property. To sum it up in lack of a better term, my pool is on my property, but to use that fence as a barrier, I have to sign an encroachment agreement, I believe.
Okay, can I ask Jason about this encroachment agreement?
You can ask it when the report
Okay.
comes on the floor.
All right, thanks, Chris.
You.
Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chris, as well, for coming in. Just, we heard earlier that in order to put a pool in, residents need to apply for a pool permit. Have you completed that process?
Depends what your definition of, sorry, thank you, Councilor O'Hare. It depends what your definition of completing the process is. I've submitted my pool permit probably about over a month ago. It has yet to be reviewed as it is insufficient, as I've been told. Apparently I need to get $2 million liability from my insurance company before they will review my pool permit proposal that I've submitted already, as it is incomplete in their eyes.
So, Chris, the way I see it, from what I heard you say to Councillor Decker, is that you're planning on installing this pool solely on your property, not on the encroachment.
That is correct. The pool actually will be on my property.
So therefore, could you also not put your own fence on your own property and it has nothing to do with the encroachment?
I possibly could, to answer that question. It would drastically cut down my back square footage of my backyard, if you will.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Longo, you wanted to ask?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Chris, for coming in. Councilor O'Hare asked a question because I heard the same thing. You said you're building the pool on your property.
That's correct.
Proper setbacks, I think it's a meter, so your pool would be a meter from the actual lot line?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, but it is important to know, right? Because you could build the pool by the sounds of it now.
Not what I've been told. My pool permit is still in review. They will not review my pool permit proposal until I provide $2 million liability insurance through my insurance and add the city of Thorold as a secondary payee on my insurance, as I've been told by the city
Thanks, Chris.
staff.
I'll ask the question to staff when it comes up then. Thanks.
Okay, the questions to the presenter, go ahead.
Oh, okay, that is a question for,
Any comments or questions to staff we'll deal with when the report's
thank-
on the floor.
thanks for coming in, Chris. I'm just curious, have you put a deposit on your pool?
So far to date, thank you for the question. To date, I paid the pool permit, which was $120 fee. I put my deposit down, which is $500, should I break any city property. I've also paid my encroachment agreement fee, which was waived, so that's neither here nor there. I've done everything I've been asked to by the city, and they are right now in limbo. They are trying to do some sort of pool permit review, which they will not enact or tell me it's complete until I provide this $2 million insurance liability that is with my insurance company right now. Thank you.
Councillor D'Angelo?
Trying to ask the right question here. So, Chris, so you mentioned the pool will be on your property, it's within the setbacks. So if you put a fence at the end of your property, then was it explained that you wouldn't need the insurance? Or you would need the insurance even if you put the fence there?
I have a two-part answer if I'm allowed to do so.
Please. Yeah.
I was told if I put my own fence on my property, I will not have to enter into the encroachment agreement. My secondary answer or question I literally proposed in my essay, if you will, is I'm now the 13th, I believe, pool on my on Tulip Tree. Has every single resident had to do the exact same regulations and rigorous stuff that I've had to do. I posed that to city staff.
Anyways, that's,
We'll ask that.
do you have
I'm
any
not sure
further-
proper protocol, sorry.
No. Do you have any further questions, Ken?
No, that provides the clarity, and I think that'll help us make a decision to help the gentleman. Thank you.
Any further questions to the presenter? Okay. Chris, thank you for coming to council and your presentation. You can take a seat and you can stay and listen to the deliberation on the report.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. In accordance with the city's procedural bylaw, PWCSC for 2024 respecting encroachments, Tulip Tree Drive will now be dealt with following the delegation. So can I get a mover and a seconder for the report? I got Councillor Hanley and Councillor Sentence. Nicholas will now put the motion on the screen. Currently, council is receiving the information in the memorandum. And Jeff Holman and staff are here to answer any questions. Okay, so it's up on the screen, and I'll start with Councillor Hanley. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, the appropriate staff member. Seeing that council may do some other options in order for Mr. Garofalo to get his building permit, if he was to erect a temporary fence, I believe for a pool, only has to be 4 feet high. Through you, Mr. Mayor, the property staff, if he was to do that until we can fully resolve this, noting that he is putting this pool on his own property and he's within the setbacks, would he be issued a pool permit? Example, say, if he puts up a snow fence tomorrow from one side to the other, city comes and inspects, will you issue a pool permit so he can move on with his project? Would that be feasible to say?
Jason, can you answer that, please?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I know that the pool bylaw does speak to temporary enclosures. I'm just trying to find the information. If perhaps we can move to other questions, then come back to that.
Okay,
back
just
to
a
that.
follow-up, just a
Yeah,
follow-up
go-
to that.
Go ahead. Ken.
Here's my thing. It's got to be permissible because he's got a solid wall right behind him. Nobody's going to be able to get into his backyard anyways. He's got a neighbor on 77's got a fence. I know that for a fact. He's got the neighbor on 75 has a fence. I know that for a fact. So he's already boxed in. It's just a matter of putting a temporary fence in. So I think that's an easy resolve until we get to a final resolution so we can deal with every encroachment along the thing. I just want to state that. He's already boxed in anyways.
Jason, you've heard what Councillor Hanley had to say. Have you had a chance to look at any further information?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, the pool bylaw identifies that a temporary enclosure is only permitted while the outdoor swimming pool is under construction. And that the temporary enclosure is required to be a minimum 5-foot-high plastic mesh fence with meeting certain criteria, or be constructed of a material that will provide an equivalent or greater degree of safety to the property.
Will that give us time to deal with,
Well, I'm thinking here we are. We're in October 1st.
yeah.
I don't think the pool is going to be used yet. And I would think this is something we need. We were just told we need to expedite this matter. We got October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. We got at least 8 months to resolve it. So I think in order for Mr. Garofalo to be able to commence his construction, we need to come to a compromise with the homeowner, seeing that, as he's mentioned, 13 other permits have already been issued, and he's been waiting construction. He was blindsided, basically, when he came here. He didn't know that he was gonna need all these requirements because everybody in the street was already okay with it. So that's just my point. If we can, then I think, am I allowed to ask the presenter a question? Will you be
No,
suitable with that?
no,
I didn't
no.
think so. Okay. All right.
gotta
I'm just
follow up
asking
this.
anyways, you know.
It was a good try. But anyway, I see Jason wants to respond, and then
Okay,
I'll get
let's try to
everybody,
resolve
don't
this.
worry. Did you want to respond to that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The city would not be able to issue a pool permit based on a temporary enclosure, because should council not agreed to the encroachment agreement, and then the pool permit has already been issued. What we could, however, do if the property owner was in agreement to doing so, if they were proposing to build a fence on their property so that it was in compliance with the bylaw, the fence would not need to be constructed yet until the pool construction was completed. And if council came to a resolution prior to that, then the pool permit could be amended.
Okay. We'll continue with further questions at this time.
Mr. Mayor.
Do you have a question, Councillor Longo? I seen you had your hand up.
My question was just what the director said. We would have to issue a pool permit if he built a pool on his property with setbacks and proper fencing.
So as long as the proposal is compliant with the pool bylaw and subject to MTO approval because of the location of the property, then yes, there would be no reason not to issue a pool permit.
Okay, thank you.
I got Councillor Decker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question about this $2 million policy. Is
That
that
would-
normal, that we would ask a homeowner to provide the policy, a $2 million policy, with the city on it? I might need clarification from Chris that he needed.
No. That-
Jason, can you, or can
That's
somebody?
That's if it includes the encroachment, am I correct? If the pool's within his property and fence within his property, he doesn't need to.
He doesn't need that, but, okay, that's where I was confused.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor DeAngelo.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the question that was posed was, and you responded, Mr. Simpson, was if the pool is not complete, when the pool is completed, that's when the fence has to go up, right? What's the definition of a completed pool?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, water would not be able to be placed in the pool until the fence was constructed.
Okay, so obviously, my thought process here is he's most likely not gonna have this pool designed to be used in the wintertime, so he could start construction now, and it may take 2 or 3 months to finish construction, to put the water in, and at that point in time, that's when the fence would have to go up. Would that be a correct understanding?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe we heard from the delegate that he was given a 3 to 4 week window that construction would take. And I believe, if I recall correctly, it's an in-ground pool being proposed. To the best of my knowledge, when an in-ground pool is being placed, again, construction methods may have changed over the years, but in order to hold a liner in place, water needs to be put into the pool to hold it in place. Otherwise, so I may be incorrect on that, but that's to the best of my knowledge.
Okay, and then, I guess in my terms, through you, Mr. Mayor, what is considered a fence? Would a snow fence with T-rails be considered a fence? Or would it have to be frost fence with posts? Or would it have to be a wooden fence? What can be classified as a fence to fence the pool in?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the pool bylaw is very specific as to what type of fence construction is permitted. So a wood fence, meeting certain criteria, regardless of fence type, it has to be a minimum of 5 feet high. And the acceptable methods are a wood fence, a chain link fence, meeting certain criteria, or a wrought iron fence, meeting certain criteria. With the exception of the temporary enclosure that I spoke of earlier, while the construction is occurring.
I'm willing to put a motion on the floor that we allow the building permit with a temporary fence and give them a timeline. And then on the flip side, that timeline now becomes us that we have to deal with to get this resolved. I don't think he should be, Mr. McGrath should be forced to wait another season. I think his window's closing in terms of building. I think we need to do what we can to help facilitate this, and I think we could deal with his one-off first in this group as we've, and I don't know if this is part of the motion, but I know we were gonna direct our legal to get a bunch of other issues resolved, so if you wanted that as part of the motion too, I'm more than willing to do that, so that we had this going concurrently to help resolve the situation. That's what I'm looking at putting on the floor,
I'll come back to you. I just want to give other councillors.
but I just want to make sure Councillor Hanley's agreeable, because I know he's been sort of spearheading this.
Okay. What? Did you want to speak on that, Jason?
I don't know if I understood Councillor Dan's suggestion clearly, but just for clarification, the city would not be able to issue a pool permit for this property with only a temporary enclosure proposed. An actual bylaw compliant fence would have to be proposed in order for us to issue the permit, unless council chose to amend the bylaw, which I don't believe is their intention.
Okay. We'll come back to that. Go ahead. Who wanted to speak that hasn't spoken? You've spoken already, Councillor. Anyone that wants to speak that hasn't spoken, because then I'm gonna go to Councillor Hand. Go ahead, Councillor Sims.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess through you to Jason, it's gonna sound redundant, it's the same questions again. So how can we make this possible, considering what we talked about, you know, retroactive and stuff like that? How can we make this happen legally so that he can start building his pool and still be within the confines of our bylaws and legalities? So is there a way to get him moving on his pool, and so that there's no chance of later, like, Chris, you don't want someone coming back to you later after you built the pool and saying, oh, no, you didn't get the permit? How do we make this happen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if MTO approval has been granted for the pool, then the property owner would need to propose construction that was compliant with the pool bylaw, and then we would be able to issue the pool permit. Should council make a decision as with regards to the encroachment at a later date, then that pool permit could be amended to address whatever council's decision was. But if council chooses not to approve the encroachment agreement, then the pool permit would be issued based on compliance with the pool bylaw, and the homeowner would need to proceed in that direction as opposed to what they're currently proposing.
Okay, right, so it sounds like you're confident the pool is on your property, you're confident with that portion of it, but again, back to the fence, it can't be temporary, it has to be more permanent for him to be able to do this, and then he's got to tear that down later if he wants to, depending on how it goes.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it would depend on timing. So we wouldn't be able to issue a pool permit unless a permanent fence was being proposed on their property. However, proposed.
Okay.
And the permanent fence would have to be installed before water got put in the pool. So I guess it depends on timing of how everything works out as to whether or not it would be dependent on how quickly council made a decision on the encroachment agreement option, how quickly water was being proposed to put in the pool.
Okay. I should have asked this earlier. How set is the proponent on building this year? But
That's why he's here. Go ahead, Councillor Hand.
I know from talking to the proponent, he's excited to get construction underway soon. Simple fix to me is this: you're under construction, you're allowed to erect a snow fence while you're under construction. You make part of that construction for your permit that you're going to propose a permanent fence. You wait until the spring to put the liner in. By that time, maybe council's resolved this whole issue, and it'll save him from putting a permanent fence up. Because my understanding is he only has to propose it in the application for the permit. So if 8 months down the road, if we haven't resolved something yet, and he's gotta put water in the pool, then it's gotta be a permanent structure. Until water goes in that pool, it's a construction site. But he can be issued a permit, because all he has to do is put on the building application of the permit, a proposed fence. Doesn't have to be erected until the water goes in the pool. And before that, you put up a construction fence, no fence, with a sign, open excavation, danger, and you're set to go. Because it's under construction.
Is that
And that's
correct,
the resolve.
Jason?
That's the issue. That's how we can resolve this tonight.
Jason?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that could work. I mean, I don't want to speak for the property owner. I would suggest they should speak with their pool contractor to determine whether or not that would be feasible, and if that's something that they're open to. But that, yeah, from the city's perspective, that's an option.
I think one of the bigger options here is we gotta get that encroachment agreement done. How long do you think that will take? Do we have an idea if we,
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we could probably get something back to council for the end of the month.
that's good, that's what I wanna hear.
Can I?
Go ahead.
In the meantime, we have a resident here that wants to get construction. I know, in fact, he's already behind schedule. He's already canceled it once because he didn't realize he was gonna be in this kerfuffle here. So if he was to come, put in a permit, an application for a temporary fence, he'd be issued a permit. And he
I
can't.
know, but I'm looking further and saying if we get the encroachment agreement to council.
But how if council decides to sell the land to the residents? We
No,
don't
no,
need the
if we
encroachment
get
agreement.
an encroachment agreement that council passes, then he would be able, and if he follows the encroachment agreement, then he'd be able to proceed with,
Well, and that's the deal. He's already signed the encroachment.
his whole project.
See, he's already signed the encroachment agreement. So we already have one in place because he signed it
Yeah.
and they waived the $100 fee. So we don't need that. That's already been done.
Go ahead, Counselor DeAngelo.
Well, I just want to be clear here so that Mr. Garofalo can leave here knowing exactly what he's doing. So council doesn't have to make any decision. He puts a pool application in with a proposed fence. I'll bring another motion forward that we direct staff to come back with a report at the next council meeting regarding the encroachment issue for Tulip Tree. Will that suffice, and there'll be no issue with him going to the counter tomorrow and applying for a building permit, for a pool permit?
Jason, it's in your ball game now.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if the application is compliant with the bylaw, then and MTO approval has been granted, then yeah, there's no reason why we wouldn't issue a pool permit.
And he has MTO approval.
Okay, so, and the other question I asked, that they bring, you want that, and I asked if they could get an encroachment agreement here at next meeting, and you think it's doable, Sean?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, like someone said, we've already got a signed encroachment agreement. The only issue that we have here is the $2 million liability, naming as additionally insured, and if at this point in time, we need to talk to, we're gonna have some more conversations with Sarah Premi about
Okay, and
making sure
you'll
that
have
that's.
those answers,
That's
okay?
right.
One sec, finish up, and then I'm going back.
Well, I just want to put a motion on the floor that we direct staff to come back with information regarding the encroachment agreement for the next council meeting so that we can put some resolve
I
to
don't know
this
if we
issue.
need a motion or staff direction, is it good staff?
Through- Through you, Mr. Mayor, are you speaking about the issue in general on Tulip Tree Drive?
Yeah, we asked several questions to our
Yeah, so
our
if you'd
legal
like to,
representative that we need answers for.
Yep.
If we could have those answers come back for the next council meeting, that could give council direction of how we're gonna move this forward in the most efficient and appropriate manner.
okay. So my understanding is that the amendment would be, there's a specific amendment dealing with this gentleman who is delegated with respect to 79 Tulip Tree Drive, and then a further direction that staff retain external legal counsel to advise on options respecting encroachments on Tulip Tree Drive, and staff report back to council. I could put that up on the
Absolutely.
screen and
Next council,
Yeah, yeah,
at the next council meeting.
that's correct.
yeah, you've captured my sentiments, so we're dealing with the one issue here, but we're also dealing with what was presented to us earlier.
Okay. One thing at a time. You know what they say, one hand washes the other, and they both wash the face, remember.
Okay, through you, Mr. Mayor, if both, I can get staff feedback as well as feedback from Councillor D'Angelo as the mover of the amendment, that would be great.
I don't know if we need number two at all. That, you don't need number two. He's gonna follow the bylaw and do what he has to do. We don't need number two at all.
They're missing, because
You
the
don't
applicant
need-
just has to come tomorrow,
Yeah.
say, I'm gonna put up a
Yeah,
fence, part of the
that's-
application,
that's-
and get this
that
permit,
doesn't
we're
need
done.
to be part of this motion. That's normal business of
Yeah.
dealing with. the-
1 and 3, I think, works.
Number three can become number two, and number two goes away.
Yeah,
The only thing I would say about three is that it should be in two parts. One is that we come back with a specific agreement for 79 Tulip, and then we have one for the whole street.
Well, I don't know if you can
well, he's
separate.
already signed an agreement.
I just,
You want the whole street, right?
Go ahead, Councilor
Yeah.
Longo.
I just want to ask Councillor D'Angelo why he believes that 79 needs a special agreement. I think we want to resolve the entire encroachment
Look,
issue
this is-
on
yeah,
Tulip Tree.
Yeah.
okay, I'm just, all right, you may not get an answer for all the other properties, so I want to just make sure that if you're doing that agreement and it's coming forward for all, I'm going to say there's 79, there won't be 79 houses, but there's 79, say how many properties there are. I don't want it to have to come back to council that we have to pass all of them to move forward. I want to make sure that if it's an agreement and Mr. Garofalo wants to move forward with his agreement, we can do so because he has an urgent issue that he's got to deal with. I don't want to getting hung up with everybody else's because the other ones may take extra time because we've asked several questions and there has to be some research and documentation pulled to find the other stuff. I don't know if that'll be back by the end of the month, so I don't want to get them mixed up and then we get nothing done. I want to make sure one gets done and the other one may need a bit more work.
I understand what you're saying, but I'll just make a comment. I want to be consistent, so that's.
And if he complies with what staff's saying, then
That's
we
right.
deal with the other ones, because he's dealt with, you know.
So, yeah, so it's just, like I said, it's simple. He proposes that he's gonna put a permanent fence up. He puts a construction fence up during construction. In the meanwhile, I think we can resolve this issue. We got 7-8 months.
No, but we can
Yeah.
resolve,
Yeah,
we'll see
and
where we
cope.
are in 3 weeks, okay? Let's not get too far ahead of, we want to be quicker than that.
But he don't wanna wait 3 weeks, though.
No,
He's gonna come in tomorrow.
yes, because that allows him to.
Okay, yeah.
Go ahead, Sean. Let's not get too convoluted here.
I just
getting
want
late,
to be
we're
very
getting
clear
tired.
about the timing. There's zero chance I'm bringing a report to October 22nd with an agreement for everybody on
No,
that
that's right.
street. Just
You-
not
That's an
happening.
ongoing thing, but you're gonna deal with the concern that might rectify the situation.
That's right.
So,
Okay.
so that, through you, Mr. Mayor, just to clarify on the timelines, I don't want to be including something that is not feasible, and so.
The status update.
A status update? Okay.
We try to make things easy for you.
I know. Can I get a mover and a seconder to go past 10 o'clock? I got Counselor DeRose, Counselor Hanley. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. We shouldn't be much past 10, but we'll be probably past.
One day to turn it down and stay past 10. We all vote and say, no, I.
Okay, are you good with this?
Yes.
He says yes, yes. he is.
Did you have a seconder?
Get the fucking over with.
Counselor D'Angelo moved it, and Counselor Hanley seconding it, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, it's up there. There's two parts. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay. Okay, and then I say mover and seconder for the motion as amended. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay. Now we're on bylaws, right? We might beat 10 o'clock. Wait. Okay, yeah, make sure. There was no difference. Okay. Okay, can I get a mover and a seconder for Bills 73, 2024 through Bills 81, 2024? Counselor Sentence the mover, Counselor Decker is the seconder. Again, that's Bills 73, 2024 through 81, 2024. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. There being no further business, this meeting is hereby adjourned at 9:56. So we